solid stomata here. There's hardly any pavement cells to be found in the whole thing. Just, massive overdriving of cells into the guard cell making pathway at the expense of the pavement cell pathway. So recall that was a decision those cells had to make. They're going to choose one or the other, and apparently in this mutant, they all chose to become guard cells. Okay, how about B? Yeah, no, that's kind of really opposite phenotype. All we get tons of pavement cells and no guard cells whatsoever. Okay, C. How far might that have gotten?
Made it to GMC and have differentiate into the.
Okay, so the thought is it may have made it to the guard mother cell, maybe about this one, or maybe this
That
one.
one, yeah.
Yeah, or made it to this one,
Yeah.
but not differentiating further than that. And it's a little bit perhaps difficult to interpret exactly where it's stopped, but you can see there's clearly some asymmetric cells that are smaller. So it does seem to be going through at least some of those initial divisions and creating what looks like a myristoid cell, but then it didn't get all the way to making the double guard cell packet. So I would say that's an accurate assessment. And then finally we have D here. What's going on with D? 4 lips. So we have 2 guard cells or 2 stomata right next to each other. So here's one and here's one next to each other, another set of 2. But there still are some pavement cells interspersed among these. So that's kind of, interesting that you can see mutations, and all of these are affecting that pathway, but the phenotypes that you get out are distinct and different. And that's telling us about something about the progression of the way these cells go along in committing to the final cell phase. Okay, so then we're supposed to predict here which genes in the pathway might be mutated to give these phenotypes. And I specifically said a loss of function mutation, because I wanted to start thinking about what is the difference in meaning between loss of function and gain of function. So with loss of function, generally you're making that protein defunctional, or maybe it's not being made at all, so you're looking at the absence of protein function. So, so what do we think might be a gene that could mutate to give too many or solid stomata? Scream or scream 2, yeah. So normally these should be having a wild type function of holding back, of limiting the number of cells that get into this stomata phenotype. So if that function goes away, now too many cells get enthusiastic about becoming guard cells and commit themselves to that. Okay, B was the opposite scenario here, where we have the outcome of just pure pavement cells. Okay, so speech was one speechless, actually is the name of the gene. So we lose that initial function of being able to at least send some cells down the pathway. If you can't do that, there's no hope of ever making a guard cell, and you would expect exactly that B-type phenotype. Okay, how about C? Mute. Okay, any other possibilities? FLP.
Just as you had some of the big circles where you didn't have any of the splits.
Yeah. So, I think that we here in the class are not particularly experts in interpreting some of these intermediate phenotypes, but it does turn out to be mute. So you get cells, the small ones are apparently the myristoid cells. And I would expect too that so with this lack of mute function, you can get cells that are going down the pathway, they're able to form a smaller asymmetric cell, and then they kind of stop at that point. Now FLP, remember this is a negative regulator. And what this is regulating is usually the conversion of one guard mother cell into 2 future guard cells. And so if this repression goes away, now you're going to get not fewer but more precursors to guard cells. So that's not going to work for the C phenotype. Okay. So it's actually worth discussing that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, then how about D down here? FLP, so that, as a matter of fact, if you do lose this FLP, you're going to get more than one cell division here, because remember its function is to hold back or repress the number of cell divisions. So instead of just getting one, you get two. And that's going to give you two stomata that are right next to each other. And they call that the four lips, because two mouths and four lips. Okay, so all of these, whether it's a repressor or a promoter, an activator type of function, if you lose that function, then you're going to get a corresponding phenotype, which you guys did a great job predicting. Okay, so the final question down here is to think about the opposite scenario, where now instead of losing function, we actually get more. So it's still a wild type function, but there's more of it. It's a gain of function scenario that makes this speechless protein constitutively active. So what phenotype would you predict is going to happen from that scenario? Any ideas?
Extra meristemous,
Extra meristemoid cells.
not necessarily full formation or something.
Okay. Why do you think it might not be full formation of stomata?
Because if nothing else is gain of function, then may not be enough to make that full transformation to the sum.
Or FLP might actually restrict it or restrain it.
Okay. So in the case of a gain of function mutation, we're sort of making the assumption that all the other genes in the organism, in the genome, are still functioning normally. So as these cells start to differentiate, one of the things they may do is turn on some of these regulators, like the mute gene or the four-lips gene. So I think that if these cells, if these meristemoid cells form, they're going to be, we can assume that they'll go down the pathway of a normal meristemoid cell and turn on the appropriate genes down the line. So I think that probably those meristemoid cells would develop into guard cells.
Which you saw in A.
So if there's just more of the speech, then you'll just get more shot down that pathway. which is
Exactly.
More
More speechless,
Which
or
is-
more
which is-
cells going down that pathway. So the fundamental function of speechless is to act as a gateway for how many cells are entering this pathway. So if we give you like 2-3 times as much speechless gene function in a gain of function situation, now we might have 2-3 times as many cells going down the pathway. So it may or may not look like A. I mean, A is kind of an extreme example here, but definitely I would think there should be more than the normal number of guard cells found, or normal number of stomata found in these backgrounds. Okay, any other thoughts or questions from this exercise? All right, if you want to pass them over, select for some points, and see you next week with some questions.
Are we doing a lecture on Tuesday and then I'll review it?